The abandoned gas station. It was a muggy night last summer when I decided to take a shortcut through the backroads of rural Texas. I'd been visiting family in Dallas, and the GPS suggested a quicker route home to Austin. My old pickup truck, a rusty 2008 Ford F-150, rumbled along the narrow, twisting highway, the headlights piercing a dense fog that seemed to devour everything beyond the beams. The radio had lost signal miles ago, leaving me with just the drone of the engine and the sporadic hoot of an owl. I was exhausted, my hands gripping the wheel tighter than necessary, but I figured I'd make it home by dawn if the truck didn't give out. Around midnight, the engine coughed and died. The dashboard lit up with warning lights, and the truck coasted to a halt on the shoulder. I swore under my breath, stepping out into the thick, humid air that clung to my skin like a second layer. The fog was so heavy I could taste it, damp and earthy. I popped the hood, fumbling with my phone's flashlight, but mechanics wasn't my strong suit. It looked like a tangled mess of hoses and grime. That's when I spotted a dim flicker ahead, maybe half a mile down the road. A neon sign partially obscured by overgrown pines, an old gas station. It had to be my salvation. I grabbed a wrench from the toolbox for protection, more out of paranoia than anything, and started walking. The asphalt was cracked, weeds pushing through, and every step echoed too loudly in the stillness. The rustling in the bushes felt like eyes following me, but I told myself it was just the wind. I should have listened to that nagging voice in my head telling me to stay put and call for help, but the isolation gnawed at me, pushing me onward. The station emerged from the mist like a ghost from the past. The sign read, "Old Pump Stop," in chipped paint, the neon sputtering as if it was on its last breath. The building was dilapidated, windows cracked and smeared with dirt, pumps wrapped in vines like nature was reclaiming them. A single light bulb dangled over the entrance, casting long shadows that danced unnaturally. I pushed the door open, the hinges creaking like a warning, and stepped inside. The air was stale, heavy with the sharp tang of old oil and decay, like something had died in the walls. Shelves were half empty, cans of motor oil toppled over, and a dusty calendar on the counter was stuck on a date from 1998. An old radio hissed faintly, static crackling as if trying to tune into a forgotten frequency. I called out, "Hello? Anyone here?" But only silence answered, thick and oppressive. As I rummaged for anything useful, a can of gas maybe, I heard a soft tapping on the glass pane. My heart skipped and I swung my flashlight around. There he was, standing just outside, his silhouette blurred by the grimy window, a man in a hooded jacket, face hidden in shadow, clutching a red jerrycan. He tapped again, more insistent, motioning for me to come out. My mouth went dry. Who was this guy? A local? A drifter? My mind raced with stories I'd heard about these forgotten highways, hitchhikers with dark secrets, or worse. But my truck was dead, and cell service was non-existent out here. I gripped the wrench tighter and stepped outside, the door swinging shut behind me with a finality that made my stomach twist. "You need gas?" he asked, his voice rough, like gravel under boots. Up close, he looked weathered, mid-50s maybe, with a scraggly beard and eyes sunken deep into his skull. His hands, holding the jerrycan, were covered in old scars, the kind that come from burns or fights. I nodded, trying to sound casual. "Yeah, ran out. You got some?" He grunted and led me around back to a rusted shed, the jerrycan sloshing ominously. As he poured into a spare container I found inside, the fog seemed to thicken, muffling the world. "Not many come this way anymore," he muttered, his breath fogging the air. "Roads cursed. They come at night." I laughed nervously, thinking he was joking. "They? Who's they?" His eyes flicked to the tree line, and for a moment, fear flashed across his face. "The ones who take what they want. Blood for the road." My skin prickled. Before I could ask more, headlights sliced through the fog. A big rig truck barreling toward us, its horn blaring like a scream. The man dropped the jerrycan, fuel spilling everywhere, and bolted into the woods without a word. The truck swerved, stopping inches from the pumps, and I ran back to my truck, heart hammering, spilling half the gas as I filled the tank and sped off. I made it home that night, but the encounter stuck with me like a bad dream. The man's words echoed. They come at night. The next morning, I couldn't shake it. I searched online for old pump stop Texas and found buried forum threads on sites like Reddit, ESR Urban Legends. People shared stories. Drivers vanishing on that stretch of Highway 281. Cars found abandoned with empty tanks. No signs of struggle. One post from 2015 described a scarred man offering help, then disappearing when a truck appeared. He warned me about them, the user wrote. I barely escaped. Comments speculated, serial killers, ghosts, even a cult hiding in the hills. The police reports I dug up were sparse. Missing persons cases dating back to the 80s, all unsolved, with witnesses mentioning a hooded helper who vanished like smoke. Curiosity turned to obsession. I confided in a buddy from work, and we drove back a week later during the day, armed with cameras and a full tank. The road looked different in sunlight, less menacing, more forgotten. We found the spot, but the station wasn't there. Just an overgrown lot, a crumbled foundation buried under weeds, and a rusted signpost snapped in half. "You sure this is it?" my friend asked, skeptical. I nodded, my mouth dry. As we poked around, something caught my eye in the dirt. A silver keychain engraved with Route 281 Forever, caked in what looked like old bloodstains. I pocketed it, a chill running down my spine. That night, the dream started. The man's scarred face loomed, his voice whispering, "They're hungry." I woke, drenched in sweat, the keychain on my nightstand glowing faintly under the lamp. The scar on my arm, from where a branch scraped me during our search, began to itch, then burn. I ignored it at first, but it spread, red veins creeping like roots. Weeks passed, and I avoided that road, but the pull grew stronger. One foggy evening, I cracked. I drove out alone, telling myself I needed answers. The fog rolled in thick, and there it was. The station, fully formed, lights buzzing as if it had never left. I parked, heart racing, and stepped inside. The radio static was louder, voices murmuring just out of reach. The tapping started again, on the glass. The man was back, his hood low. "You came," he said almost sadly. "Now they know you." The truck arrived with a roar, but this time, multiple figures stepped out. Tall, faceless shapes in the mist, their movements jerky, unnatural. The man tried to warn me. "Run!" But they grabbed him first, dragging him into the fog with a guttural scream that echoed through the trees. I bolted to my truck, but the engine wouldn't turn. Claws scratched at the doors, long metallic nails gouging the paint. I could see their shadows circling, whispering in a language that sounded like wind through bones. One smashed the passenger window, glass shattering inward, and a hand reached in. Cold, leathery, nails digging into my shoulder. Pain exploded as I fought back, swinging the wrench wildly. So I connected with something solid, a wet crunch, and the hand recoiled. The engine finally caught, and I peeled out, tires screeching, the figures fading in the rearview mirror. I made it home, bleeding from the gash on my shoulder, but the wound festered, refusing to heal. Doctors called it an infection, but I know better. At night, the tapping returns. On my window, my door, even inside my head. The keychain? It's gone, vanished from my drawer. I've heard more stories since. Truckers vanishing on Highway 281. Their vehicles found with scratches like mine. Some say the station is a portal luring the desperate. Others whisper of them. Hungry entities that feed on fear, using the scarred man as bait. He was probably one of their victims, trapped in an endless cycle. I avoid that road now, but the scar throbs, a reminder. If you're driving alone on a foggy night and see a flickering sign, keep going. Don't stop. Because once they mark you, the tapping never ends. This story came from a driver in Texas, too scared to reveal his name. The old pump stop lingers in legends. Some claim it's a trap for weary souls, others a haunt for ancient horrors. No records confirm it, but locals murmur of disappearances on that highway, especially under the moonless sky. I trace my scar now, the whispers growing louder. If you've ever felt unseen eyes on a lonely drive, maybe they've chosen you too. Send your own terrifying tale to darktalesdailyeggmail.com. Tell us how to credit you. Your story could be next. Until then, keep your tank full, if you dare.